All right, we now move to Miami, where the Portland Trailblazers picked up a final second win against the Heat, 125-122. That was on Thursday night. Trevor Ariza fouled Damian Lillard with 1 second left on a three-point shot. Lillard sank all the free throws as the Blazers got back in the win column after they had dropped two in a row. CJ McCollum led the way with 35 points, including 21 in the first quarter to compensate for an off-shooting night from Lillard. And Enes Kanter was also key with 18 points and 16 rebounds. Miami got huge performances from Bam Adebayo and Tyler Herro, but it just wasn't quite enough on a night they were without Jimmy Butler and Goran Dragic. The Heat have now lost 6 in a row, including last night's loss to the Hornets, and they've now slid back to the 8th seed. All right, are the Heat's recent troubles simply injury related, or is there more to it?
I think you got to say there's more to it. You got to think injury plays. If you put a percentage on it, right, you would probably say injury plays what maybe 50%, and then the other 50% is chemistry and just experience and just playing with each other. And then not to mention, not to get into the next subject too much, but now you're gonna have new pieces that you got to inquire into the rotation and see how it go. I think so. I do think that plays a lot. Not the injury to Goran Dragic, because I felt like he's been hurt since he's been in a Miami jersey. And Jimmy Butler, listen, like he be in and out. Like I didn't even know he was gonna miss that game the other night. I thought he was playing and then he wasn't there. But nonetheless, with all that said, the Heat are still in a good position. Think about this now. You didn't have your leader, you didn't have your main guy, you didn't have your quote unquote face of the team in Jimmy Butler. You didn't have the guy that he depends on in most games, Goran Dragic. And if you think I'm lying, go back and look at Jimmy Butler's interviews during the NBA Finals last year. He brought up Goran Dragic every single interview, at least once. Hey, man, we missed 7. Hey, man, we need 7. We would be more equipped if we had 7. So on and so on. So that's a guy that Jimmy Butler believes in. But then Jimmy Butler's not there, so I guess you could call that a compound problem. So that's that. Now, on to the game itself, it's just like, hey, man, hold on. Wait a minute. I'll be remiss if I just don't do this one time for the one time. And I'm going to tell you why I feel like the Heat deserves this. We have to understand the Heat was one of the main teams in this trade deadline talk. They made moves in the trade deadline talk. Yet and still, they went out without their leader and played a Blazers team that's pretty hungry right now. That's trying to show that they deserve some respect. One of the better players in the NBA in Damian Lillard, and then one of the better Robins in the NBA in CJ McCollum. And you go play them, you play them tough. Not some old, we're going to mail it in. You play them tough. I mean, I was very impressed with the Heat. I mean, listen, this is why I have a problem sometimes with trade talk for young players. But this is a business. It's a business nonetheless, so it's going to happen. But you see Duncan Robinson, like, I just feel like the trade talk might have got to him a little bit. Because you think about this. Duncan Robinson was out of here. He was out of here. If it wasn't for Tyler Herro if it wasn't for Toronto trying to add in Tyler Herro, Duncan Robinson was gone. He would be wearing a Toronto Raptors jersey right now. But Miami said, no, you're not getting Herro, and then we know what happened, right? So I brought that up because I think Duncan Robinson didn't play his best game due to all the surrounding distractions. He kind of disappeared like Jimmy Butler's NBA bubble mustache. He disappeared, and I understand it because when you're a young player, and we seen it with the Lakers last year or 2 years ago. We seen it with them 2 years ago. When you're young and you're just hearing you're out of here, you're out of here, you're out of here, it messes with you psychologically, and that's what I think happened to Duncan Robinson. But it didn't matter. Why it didn't matter? Because you had Adebayo, and you got Tyler Herro, and you got Kendrick Nunn, and you got a couple of others, So it didn't matter, but that's something to look on as far as the future go. How confident do Duncan Robinson maintain as the season goes if he thinks Miami don't really value him? Because that is kind of what it sounds like, right? They want to get him out of there for old ass Kyle Lowry. So that said, that's them. The Blazers. This is I thought for the Blazers it was just a normal Blazers performance. To be honest with you, I was more impressed with what the Heat did. The Blazers, this is what you get. I mean, usually is Lillard with the 35 and McCullough with the 22. They switch spots, no problem with that. Melo drop you 20, but Enes Kanter,
Yeah.
that's why they won the game. That's why they won the game. Let's go ahead and say what you say, but that's why they won the game. Because Kenner was a beast on those offensive boards. In the fourth quarter, that last 2 minutes of the game, man, let me tell you something. I like Adebayo, but he wasn't getting it done on that board. Like, Kenner was over here one arming it and one, like, he was doing his thing. And I felt like that's why because if you remember, the Heat was up in the last 2 minutes. They was up because you had Herro rolling, you had Adebayo rolling. They was making, on the offense side of the board, they was doing what they were supposed to do. The problem was, when they got the Blazers to miss a shot, they wasn't boxing out Kanter. And Kanter would just do his thing, go to the free throw line, and then, like you said, at the end of the game, it came down to Dame versus Ariza, which Damian Lillard is an all-NBA player. But he tends to shoot himself out of good plays sometimes. So I'm not mad if I'm Miami that I got Trevor Ariza on him, because Trevor Ariza is known as a decent to good defender. He's not terrible. So I'm like, all right, cool. Ariza, you got him. That's all we need from you. Whether we like it or not, that was a foul. It was soft as baby stuff. It was softer than baby poop. But it was a foul. You cannot touch the shooter's arm when they're in a shooting motion. He touched his elbow. Graves, did it change the shot? Maybe, maybe not. It doesn't matter. The rule book say you can't do that. He did that. He violated that. The referee called it. As heartbreaking as it is, it's part of the game. And it's not like he fouled, let's say, Robert Covington. He fouled Damian Lillard. Like, let's be real here. Players matter. And if you're gonna go against a superstar, all NBA, all-star player like Damian Lillard, and you're gonna put yourself in that situation, you're gonna get called for the foul. That's just what it is. You're gonna get called for it. A guy like him that's shooting a three with his history, with his resume, you're gonna get called for that. So, unfortunate as it was for the Heat, it is what it is. But they'll be fine as long as they keep playing the way they play. They just need to maintain the intensity that they got right now. Just keep it going. You're going to get Jimmy Butler back at some point. You might get Dragic back. I don't know. You might get him back. I'm not 100% sure. Just keep it going. You're going to work your way back into the mix. It's the Eastern Conference. You real work your way in the mix. You said that Jam law between 4 and 9. So you go work your way back in.
Yep.
So with that said, they'll be fine. So we'll see. Once Jimmy Butler come back and get back in the groove, we'll see. I'm not worried. I think the Heat are fine. And I just think the Blazers was the average Blazers. I didn't see none that blew my socks off. They just was what they were. So that's my opinion on that.
I think and to just address the question real quick, I think the Heat's issues last night or Thursday night, they were strictly injury related. I think you plug Jimmy Butler and or Goran Dragic in that game and they win it. But of course,
I don't know about Goran Dragic. I don't know. I'm with. Okay. I don't know about Goran Dragic. Jimmy Butler, I give you that. I don't know about Goran Dragic.
I think the Dragic is important because offensively, Miami without those two guys, they struggle a little bit to run a good offense, and we know how lethal Dragic is. Running offense, running side pick and roll, whatever. He can do that for you. So I think that's why, that's where I'm coming from.
If he make it on the court.
Well, yeah. Obviously, you got to get out there to handle the ball to have effect. Yeah, Miami, like I said, a little shorthanded. They were very active at the trade deadline, so they only had 9 guys. I'm out here trying to figure out who Michael Strus is. Kind of had a little bit of game to him, though, got to admit. But as you say, as much as we can talk about C.J. McCollum and Damian Lillard closing this thing out, it was Enes Kanter who just – and I tell you, guys like him and guys like Tristan Thompson just get on my nerves, and I know they get on opposing coaches' nerves because Miami, you're getting stops late in the game, and you just don't finish it with a defensive rebound because any coach will tell you the defensive possession is not over till you get the ball. You have to get the rebound, and they couldn't do it. So Enos Kanter was just fantastic. He was all over the glass, and this can happen from time to time. If you have your main big man, Bam Adebayo, trying to contest something, somebody else has to drop down and help on the glass. So I wouldn't necessarily put it all on Bam Adebayo, but there's probably some plays where he probably could have done better. But I mean, you have to be encouraged that Miami, this shorthanded, was this competitive and had a chance to beat a pretty good basketball team. And Bam Adebayo, that was some performance. 29, 9, 7, and 5 blocks. There are very few guys in the league, period, that can do that. And he just continue. We talk about most improved player. A couple of years ago, or at some point, I believe he got it. He's just continuing to get better and better, expanding his offensive game just a little bit. I think he's got a little bit more range on the jump shot. He can step out a little bit in the mid range. That little push floater type deal. I don't know if there's a big man out there that does it better than he does. And of course, we know how effective he is in the lob game. A lot of lobs up to Bam. The Herro performance is probably the most encouraging thing for Miami. He's been you talk about up and down. He's been up and down a lot of this season. Hasn't been the same consistent, just put the team on his back type thing that he can do in stretches that we saw in the bubble. But this was a really good performance. You could say he's playing with a little bit more confidence. And Kendrick Nunn was very good in this game as well.
Right.
Outside of those three guys, those three guys really carried them. They didn't get a lot from some of these other guys. Oh, by the way, I mean, a guy, Gabe Vincent, is starting this game. No clue who that was before this game, so also take that into account. So I was pretty encouraged in a losing effort, but Portland is prone to do this. In these type of situations, I'm not. Playoff time. I've been out on Portland since they were a no-show against the KD-less Golden State Warriors when they got the old broom action going on them. So, but in the regular season, in some early round playoff action, they are subject to do this type of thing. CJ McCollum comes out there and just went bonkers in the first quarter. To the point where I think was it Greg Anthony is like, oh, he's going for 50 tonight. I'm like, he's not going. No, he's not.
Yeah.
No, he's not, Greg. But he can do this. And obviously Damian Lillard, he was not very good in this game. I think he's been on a little bit of a cold streak. But in a late game situation, there really isn't anybody probably that you'd say is more clutch than Damian Lillard right now. And unfortunately, I don't like to see games end like this the way they did, but it was a foul. And again, that comes down to Trevor Ariza getting a little bit old, but still, I mean, if you're Miami, you have to it was a tough shot. You just barely grazed him. I thought he caught him on the forearm, but I think in the big picture, in that regard, because I'm so tired of jump shooters getting fouled. It may be worth, and I'm sure guys talk about this, maybe contest a little bit differently. One of the things that comes to mind when I'm thinking about not fouling jump shooters is stop going for the ball. The guy that comes to mind who was really good at contesting without fouling is a guy like Shane Battier, who would always take his hand and go straight for your face, so to obstruct your view. I feel like some guys now, there's so much different. They're trying to go from the side. They're trying to swipe the ball. You go straight middle to a guy's face, I think you might have a little more success. The problem is, I think you still have to worry about if you step forward, you're going to get into the guy's landing space. So it's not a simple issue, but those things, to lose a game like that, plus the fact that you couldn't grab a defensive rebound, that's got to be really frustrating, even though in the big picture, they deserve a lot of credit for how they competed in this game.
And to your point, Shane Battier played in the era before we had the rip through and I could just jump into the guy's chest and get a
Right.
foul. Like, it's a lot going on out there that you have to think about now. You know what I'm saying? Shane Battier, to his credit, he played in the era where I could put my hand in your face. But that was before I could put my hand in your face and then do this move and
Yeah.
now I automatically go to the free throw line. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or I can jump into you and shoot sideways and all this other mess. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's a little harder for defenders.
It is, and I guess I'm just the frustration for me is offensive players. They have so many different advantages off the fact that where a defender is already at a disadvantage because he's reacting to everything the offensive guy is doing, and all the different rules and all different things that we're doing now. It's only helped the offensive player. I'm just looking for as a guy who wants let's at least give defensive players a chance. And even though that was a clear foul, it happens on so many occasions, and games that end like that, they're not good for the NBA. You don't want to see a game end on free throws the way that did. So long term, I think that we just defenders and coaches that are known for defense, hopefully, just got to get better at defending jump shooters without fouling.